Hey everybody, welcome to Drive Thru Review 191. Today I'm going to talk about Verrater, and that means traitor in German. So a couple of months ago I reviewed a game called Mutterer, which means mutiny in German. And that game is basically the sequel to this one. That game, however, is a little bit more accessible to this one. In the other game, you basically were a crew on a ship and basically mutinying against each other, trying to be captain, take over the captain, direct where the ship's going to go, what kind of goods you're going to ship, and all that stuff. Now this is very similar in the playstyle and the mechanics of the game, but this one takes place on land, and basically each player is sort of a house, or they belong to a certain house or a faction. I think Game of Thrones, there's basically a flower and an eagle that you can sort of align with. And there's a circle of cards just like in Mutiny, and you basically are trying to pick spots where you want there to be conflict or where you want there to be battles, and you're going to commit resources and then choose some role cards. So just a little bit of history on the game. Now this game specifically, and also Mutterer or Mutiny, are cited by the designers of Puerto Rico and Citadels as being sort of the inspiration for some of the mechanics used in there, particularly the role selection. So let me just tell you how the game works, and then I'll come back and tell you what I think about it. Okay, let me just give you a quick breakdown of all the different types of cards in this game. Now, the first thing I should mention that this game is only really available in German. You can get the rules here in German. They come on these cards here, but you can go on to Board Game Geek and print out actually a little booklet here of the English rules, and it actually fits a little bit snugly, but it does fit in here nicely in the little box. And the game is relatively available. You may have to put an order on Amazon.de for it, but there's other websites that also will have it, and they're really cheap. I think they're less than 10 bucks or right around 10 bucks for this game. So it's definitely still available. You can see here it actually came out in 1999 or 98 or so, but I think it's a testament to how good the game is that it's still being printed and made today. So the first thing each player is going to get, and this plays 3 or 4 players, is some cards in their player color here. You get some buildings here, which can be offices or farms, like so, and then you get a little sort of faction alignment card. So you can be aligned with the Eagles there, or with the Rose House, let's say. So everybody gets a set of these cards, and then you're going to be dealt out these resource cards. And these are going to be basically numerical values that you're going to submit to a conflict or sort of a war or battle, and they're just different values that you're going to play to contribute to who's going to win. And basically you're going to be having battles between one side and another side, and players will basically be aligning themselves with either side, and then maybe also backstabbing or being a traitor against the other side there. Then you've also got here these land cards here, and you're going to set these up in a circle, which I'll do here in a minute, but you can see there's some different types here. So they're going to say like walled on one side there, and then on the other side you can see that's aligned with the rose, and the other side you've got walled aligned with the eagle. So you've got another walled in here, and you see you've got a rose and then an eagle on that side. So there's basically 2 of each of these sort of land names here. And the only thing really to keep in mind here is sort of its built-in defense or army strength number, and so you can see that. So these all kind of come with a little bit of resources they're going to contribute to the battle, and then also the faction, depending on which side it's on, and then the number of victory points that it's going to award during a battle. So you can see some of these that have a lot of victory points, they come with a lot of built-in defenses. And you'll need to keep track of these, and you basically play a certain number of rounds based on 3 or 4 players, and then you just total up the points. You keep track of them on an iPad or pencil paper or something like that. You've got these 2 cards here, the strategy card and the start player card. And then you've got these role cards, and these are going to be a big part of the game. So let me set the game up here and I'll show you how to play. Okay, you can see we basically got the board set up here. I've taken all of these land cards here, and then I've set them up. Now again, I've taken 1 of each type here. So I've got the weeds here, right? So this is this land type here. I've got 1 showing for the eagle and 1 showing for the rose. So I put that here and I put that like so. And so you shuffle them up. You've got, for each type, you've got 1 of each, faction represented. Shuffle them up and mix them up, and then you got your board set up. You go ahead and put these roll cards in the middle here. These are the cards with the hands on the back. Then you're going to randomly find somebody, and they're going to get the start player card here. And then starting with the start player, in this case let's say it was orange, they're going to make themselves aligned with the eagle. And then the player to their left is going to be aligned with the rose. Player to their left will be eagle, and the player to their left will be the rows. So you're going to have, in a 4-player game, you'll have 2 on 2. If you had a 3-player game, you'll have, basically 2 on 1, so to speak, but that isn't as imbalanced as it sounds. I'll talk a little bit more about that in the review. So everybody's going to have a faction that they're, forced to align with to start the game. Then each player is going to get a exact same hand of these resource cards. So you get a 3, 4, and a 5 to start with. And then you take the rest of them here and you just shuffle them off and put them off to the side. And then players are going to take one of their building cards and then put them underneath a land that matches their faction. So remember, the orange player was first, they were an eagle, so they could put under any of the eagle cards here. And so you're going to take and put this underneath there. And what the farms do is actually let you draw cards at the end of every turn. Whereas you may upgrade these or even later on build these directly into offices, and these will let you score bonus points at the end of the game, which I'll talk about in a minute. So we'll go ahead and set that up. Finally, the player to the left of the start player gets the strategy card here. And what this allows them to do is start a conflict. So you can see you've got eagle and rose here. So they can find any sort of junction here where there's 2 different factions. So I could put the conflict here to make this land sort of fight this land. I could do it over here like so. Anywhere that there is, 2 opposite factions right next to each other, they can pick a spot and then we're going to have a conflict or a battle right there. So very simply what's going to happen is after the conflict's been chosen, the start player is going to take a roll card, and they're going to take one of these cards, remove it from the game, and then take the other and keep it for themselves. And then they're going to pass the cards to the player to their left. They're going to choose one of them for themselves, and then the next player chooses one, and then the next player chooses one. So what's going to happen after that, after everybody chooses a roll card, which I'll explain what these do in just a second, then players are going to commit some of the resources to the battle. So if we take a look at this particular battle here, you can see Fluss here is contributing 5 resources of its own to the battle, whereas Dorf here is contributing 10. So you're going to add up the players' resources based on the faction that they're aligned with. So for example, the orange guy here, he's eagle, so all of his resources will go to this side, and then anybody that is a rose, their resources will go to that side. Now, if one side wins, then the other side is going to flip, and then it's going to become part of this faction here. So one of the ways that the game can end, and actually I've never seen it end this way, ever, and I probably played this at least 10 times or more, is to have all of the factions all be the same. Otherwise you play a certain number of rounds based on the number of players, and then you add up all the points. But so you're going to get the points here and sort of break these down based on the number of people that were participating in the battle. Then you're going to get that number of points for each of the players. So in this case here, so if there was one player basically going against everybody else, they're going to get 5 points, where there's 2 competing, they'd each get 4, etc. So after you resolve the battle, distribute any points. We're going to put these here, and so then you're going to draw cards. Now anybody that has a little farm or an estate here is going to draw cards for each one that they have built. So if you've got more than one of these built, then you're going to draw 2 cards, etc. But if the place here is not aligned with your faction, you're not going to draw any cards because you're not, sort of in favor with this area here. So that's very simply the game. The start player is going to pass around the table, and then we're going to let whoever has the strategy card define the next conflict. We'll grab some roll cards and then play some resources, see who won, distribute points. So the key to the game are these roll cards here. So let me talk about these specifically and what they're going to do and how they're going to change what happens in the battle. And there's some bluffing, there's some deduction, there's a lot of backstabbing that can happen with these. So let me talk about these here, because this is really the heart of the game right here. So let's talk about the first card here, and this is the game's namesake, Verrater, or Traitor. Now whoever chooses this card is automatically going to get 1 point no matter what happens in the battle. But then they're going to flip their allegiance card before we resolve the battle. So if I grab this and I was the rose, I would actually flip this to eagle. And now all of the resources that I've applied are going to go to the eagle instead of the rose. Now what's going to happen here is, I should be a little bit more clear about this, is after everybody has taken a roll and then played the resources, only after everybody's played the resources, then we reveal which roll we have. So as these cards get passed around, then you're going to have some idea. If you don't see this in there, either the first player set it aside or the first player or any other player before you actually took it. But you can't really be sure. So that's kind of part of the game. And then as we talk about some more of these other role cards, you'll kind of have to gauge and see like, okay, well, maybe it was in their best interest to take the diplomat, or maybe it was in their best interest to take the traitor. So a lot of that sort of sussing out your other players, kind of talking smack to them a little bit, is going to be based on all of this, role selection. So this is the traitor. This is, the one that the game is really sort of focused around. And the next one here is the strategy card here. And so this guy's going to get 2 points, but then he's going to get also the strategy card. And he's going to have this until somebody else takes the strategy card. So they're going to be able to dictate where these conflicts take place. So that can actually be very interesting, and the dynamics of how, this sort of land takes shape there. So that's the strategy card there. The diplomat here, he's going to get an extra card at the end of the round, but he's also going to get a free set of 2 resources to contribute to the battle as well. So that can be sort of a surprise to reveal that and then add another 2 resources to the battle. Now the Baumeister here, basically the builder, is this guy can build a building. So you can build an office here directly. So you can take one of these and build an office. You could build an estate or a farm, or you could upgrade a farm into an office. And again, these are going to allow you to draw more cards at the end of the round, and then these will give you some bonus points, which I'll talk about at the end of the game. So that's the builder there, and that's kind of nice as well. Then you've got the other diplomat here. Doesn't let you draw any cards at the end of the game, but he contributes 5 extra resources, which is quite a bit to the battle. And then finally we've got the Bower, the farmer here. Basically you can see this is telling you you're going to draw 3 extra cards at the end of the round in addition to any other farms and stuff that you have out here. Now you have a hand limit of 5 cards, so the most you can play in a round would be 5 cards. But this guy will help you replenish your cards. If you go over 5, you've got to discard down to 5 before the next round starts. So again, you're going to play until all the factions are flipped over, which I've never seen happen. Or you're going to play 8 or 9 rounds, depending on if it's a 4 or 3 player game. You're going to add up all the points you've gotten from winning the battles, and then we're going to take a look at the offices here. So the offices, for each office that you have out, and again, most you can have 2, you're going to get points equal to the number of these cards. Not the number on the cards, but the actual count of the cards, up to a maximum of 3. So the most you can get here is 6 points. If you've got 3 cards, and then you've got 2 offices out, then you get 6 extra points for kind of holding these resources back. And that's it. That's the game. You're going to play 8, 9 rounds. You're going to get maybe a few extra points for the offices, and whoever has the most points is the winner. Okay, hope you enjoyed the overview. Like Muterer or Mutiny, I think this is an excellent game. We love playing this at lunchtime. It plays just fine 3. Probably seems better 4 if you haven't played it a lot, but we've played it a lot. And it plays just fine 3. The thing is, I would say, if you're new to the game, I would say 3 is going to be a little bit harsh because you can kind of have 2 people gang up on 1. But the cool thing about this game is there is a big temptation when it's 2-on-1, especially early in the game, to go traitor and then go back against the other guy that was on your side. So you can kind of play and manipulate a lot with that. Now, if you're familiar with Muterer or watched my other video, that one's a little bit different. That one, you play cards, and then you pull the roll. Where in this one, you pull the roll, and then based on the information that you gathered of who you think might have pulled what roll, maybe somebody pulled the traitor, maybe somebody pulled the builder or the diplomat to add resources to the battle, then you commit your resources based on that information. And that's very cool because, you may think that, somebody is going to contribute a lot, and so you can kind of stay out of it, and you go, oh, they're going to be a traitor on me anyway, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. And it adds a lot of table talk to the game. And the thing to keep in mind about the game is that deck of resource cards is not very big. It's very, very small. And so there's a couple of cards in there that are worth a little bit more. Like I think there's an 8 that's like a horse or something. But there's only one of those. And there's not very many 2s, but there's mostly 3, 4s, and 5s. So you can see, if you haven't seen that 8 in a while, well, somebody's going to play it at a very key moment. So you've got to kind of keep that stuff in mind. And not only is the traitor really need to be watched out for, but those diplomats can be. Because if you don't kind of figure that in your head, when you're figuring out how many to submit, and you think, okay, Billy over here, he's on my team. Billy's never on my team, but Billy's on my team. And so, okay, we can kind of work together, but how much do we need to get, ahead of Joe over here because, if he's got the diplomat, he flipped over to 5, and then we didn't figure for that, so he won anyway. So there's some, calculation, sort of deduction that needs to happen there. But it plays quickly. It plays in less than an hour. I have both, and I'm going to keep both. I mean, they're very kind of close in nature. One is a pirate sort of mutiny ship theme. This is sort of a land baron kind of, kingdoms versus kingdoms medieval theme. So I'm going to keep both though because one is kind of like the reverse of the other. So definitely a game I recommend. It's a little tricky to find, like as I said, but you can find it and it's relatively cheap. So I think there's a reason this has been in print for so long. So anyway, that's Verrater or Trader. Take a look. Thanks.